Here's some tips for using Google Sheets. Just go to new Google Sheets on Google Drive, and there you go. When you do this, I'll have you be measuring your 1/10 scale model. So I just made this one on SketchUp. It's a pretty boring chair, but it's 2 3/8 long, 1.5 high, and 1 3/8 wide. So yeah, give your sheet a good name. So let's see, for each section of each piece of the piece of furniture you're going to be making, let me just zoom in. It's helpful to keep it organized. So here we're thinking about the dimensions for the main body, which for my rectangle there's not much to it, so it's just the main body. So it's got height and depth and length. I'll just make these bold. Okay, so let's start taking some measurements, and you'll be looking at the model that you made at 1/10 scale. So this one is 1 1/2 inches tall. Great. So note about typing fractions into sheets. You don't want to type it like 1 1/2. That looks like 1 1/2 to you and me, but the computer sees it as 1 space 1/2, not as a number. So you need to type it as a decimal instead, and then the computer will be able to divide it and multiply with it, which will be much more helpful. This is 1.5. Okay, so let's look at what was the depth. It's 1 3/8. Okay, so instead of writing 1 space 3/8, just write it as an improper fraction, or actually say equals, and then this improper fraction, and the computer will calculate the decimal for you. Okay, so let's look at, it's 2 3/8 long, so 2 8, 16 plus 3, that's equals 19 divided by 8. Great. So 19/8, 2.375. Let me just organize these and make them, I like that to be centered. Okay, 1 to 5, 1 to 10. Centered, bold, great. So now we're going to think about how to convert these from the 1 to 1 scale to the 1 to 5 and the 1 to 10. The difference between 1 to 1 and 1 to 10 is, actually I've got these backwards. This one should be 1 to 10 because the model that we made is 1/10 of the real scale, so that's 1 to 10. So the 1 to 10 scale is 1/10 the size of the 1 to 1. So to get this, I got to multiply by 10, right? So I could just type 1.5, equals 1.5 times 10, and that'll give me 15 like I want. That's great, but that's not really the best way to use sheets. It's better if you're going to use a number to click on the cell that it's in. So now it's B2 times 10, and if I change this, whatever's in B2, then that number does the same operation. So I'll keep it at 1.5, and here it says B2 times 10, so whatever's in B2 gets multiplied. And then click that little handle and drag it down, and it'll copy the operation to the cell below. So this one's B3 times 10, the one above it is B2 times 10. I drag it down, and now I've got B4 times 10. So I don't have to retype it every time. So now I got to think about, so equals B2 times whatever it is to get into the 1 to 5 scale. I'll let you guys figure that out, what the factor is. And if you've got more pieces to your project, then maybe there's a backrest or something, and it has its own height, and I'll just grab these. It's got its own height, depth, and length, and maybe you've got legs or something, and they've got a diameter because they're round or something, and they've got a length as well. So when you have all these extra dimensions, it's really nice to be able to just do this operation. So maybe my backrest, I'm just going to make some stuff up, like it's 1. It was 1 inch high on my 1/10 scale model. It was 0.2 deep and 4 inches long, whatever. That's what it was on the 1 to 10 scale model. Now I can just drag these operations down, and it'll do the same times 10 operation as before. So that's what they would be at the 1 to 1 scale. Maybe my legs were, I don't know, 3/16, so equals 3/16, and then I don't know, 3/4 of an inch long, something like that. And I'll just drag this operation that was over here down again, and there's my 1-to-1 scale. So if you have a bunch of measurements, this is really nice because all you need to do is measure your 1/10 scale model, figure out the operation between them, and drag that equation across. So here, look, here's mine. I'm measuring my chair, and I'm thinking about how thick all the pieces are going to need to be at 1-to-1 and 1/10 of the scale, all these pieces. But then since I have all those slices, I have to figure out these measurements in the slices, and I wouldn't go through and type all these out by myself. Each of these is a reference to some cell or some equation that describes those curves, right? So rather than calculate it all by hand, I can just look at it and have Sheets calculate it for me.